Welcome to this edition of the Douglas County School District Growing Together podcast. We will be talking to leaders, educators, specialists, and community members about topics that matter to our students, our schools, and our community. Let's jump into this week's episode as we grow together. Today we are here with Zoe Zizzo and Jay Chohan, and very excited to get to talk to students today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy school day and having a little bit of time to chat with us. I'm really excited to talk with you both.
Thank you for having us.
So let's start out with a couple of questions. So we've been working with our strategic plan and we've been talking about growing together as a district. What is your hope for the future of students in Douglas County School District?
My hope is that students can follow their passions and live a fulfilling life and ultimately just be happy in life and have a positive impact on society.
Oh, that's excellent. What about you, Jay?
Overall, I think the most important thing is that kids have opportunities to find what they like to do, find what makes them happy, and just pursue whatever their dreams are.
How do you think that Douglas County is providing those opportunities for students?
I think with all of the classes and extracurricular activities we have, that's a great starting point for students to be able to find what exactly it is they want to do. And I know especially at our school, there are so many teachers who are supportive of students outside of the classroom and helping them find exactly what it is that they want to do.
Awesome. What about you guys? What do you want to do?
I'm currently thinking about computer science and neuroscience, and so I've been thinking about combining those with AI, and I've realized that I'm really interested in those partly through a few of the classes and clubs at our school, like AP Bio and TSA, and I've also been able to pursue research outside of school, and part of that has been the support from my teachers I've received, so it's been a combination of my community, my family, and ultimately myself looking for opportunities.
That's excellent. Zoe, what about you?
The courses that Douglas County School District provides for students has helped steer me to a path of cancer research. So like the
Wow.
AP Bio course and biotechnology class that we have here have helped expose me to that side of science and have helped me get internships where it helps me to get career experience.
You got to tell me a few minutes before we were chatting before the podcast a little bit about your internship. Spend just a couple of minutes talking about that and tell our listeners about your experience.
So I had one internship trying to genetically modify cancer cells so they stop recruiting cells that knock down the immune system. So basically the immune system would be able to kill off the cancer cells. And then my most recent internship was on looking at better and less invasive ways of diagnosing people with central nervous system disorders, such as traumatic brain injury, glioblastoma, and multiple sclerosis.
That's amazing, both of you. You have some exciting experiences ahead of you, not only that you've already had, but ahead of you as well. So what do you think is the hardest part about being a student in 2019? Or more importantly, what's the hardest part about just being a young adult in this day and age?
I think one of the scariest things is that what's been the traditional path for a lot of what our parents' generation has been, which has been kind of seen as like getting a traditional 9-to-5 job, going to college, following that path doesn't always work for students and young adults our age, because there's a lot of with how the job market is and with all of the concerns about tomorrow's future with things about like mental health and with climate change and all of these fears, it's hard to be able to be confident in knowing exactly what our future is. And I feel like that uncertainty can be scary sometimes.
Absolutely.
But it's also a chance to try things that are new. So it is scary, but it's also something that could be a positive.
Zoe?
For us, I feel like most adults would feel like students have it harder with technology and all these outside constant distractions coming at us, but I feel like it's overcoming the stereotypes and having to prove that we are not like others and we have compassion and the motivation to succeed.
Good for you. What advice do you give our teachers and our leaders that are supporting you?
I think one of the most important things is striking a balance between pushing your students and challenging themselves to learn in ways that they may have not thought they were capable of doing, because that's what makes them grow as people and as students. And also recognizing that students have other things going on, so there is a time where maybe pushing them isn't the best thing to do because they might be stressed about this other thing. And so just treating them as humans while also pushing them to be better than what they are right now.
Wow. Do you have an example of how a teacher or leader has supported you in that way?
Yeah, I have one of my teachers, my math teacher, the class is really difficult because the tests and the concepts are difficult. The reason he makes it that way is because he really believes in our potential to succeed as students, and he's always there to support us, and he's always there to give us the resources we need. So it is difficult, but only because he believes that we can push past that.
Right. Teaching that grit and perseverance.
Absolutely.
And supporting.
And through that we grow not just as students, but also as people.
Wow. Zoe?
I think teachers at Douglas County are especially good at doing this, but not just teaching content to kids, but teaching them skills to strive in their futures. So teaching students how to adapt their learning to how they best learn instead of having the teacher have to constantly teach in different methods, although they do, just teaching students how to be successful on their own, and that teaching kids that their success is only dependent on themselves and not other outside forces.
That's great advice. Do you think that students like you know the ways that they learn best and are able to both leverage that and adapt to other ways?
Well, I had an amazing teacher at a young level that she taught us with different methods, specifically telling us that she's using a visual teaching method, an auditory teaching method, and she had us chart and track which way we were learning the best, so then we could know for the future the best way that we learn.
That's great, and I think that's great advice for everyone to hear and learn about. So this is your chance here on the podcast. We have a lot of listeners that are going to tune in. This is your chance to talk to teachers and parents, other students. What do each of us need to hear from you as representatives of the student body?
Douglas County School District is an amazingly strong community with dedicated staff and motivated students working together for a brighter future. For all of us, we tend to forget that we are a part of something greater than ourselves, and sometimes just taking the time to reflect upon that is helpful to regain perspective.
I agree with Zoe that it's really important to recognize how important community is and how we're always stronger together than we are alone. Along with that, I think it's just small acts of kindness, and the idea of that represents that the people around you are people too, and it's good to show them that you care. Even if it may not seem like a big deal to you, it is to your community, and it's just a sign that you care about something bigger than you, which I think is something that's really important.
I agree with you both. I think it's really refreshing to hear that message from our young people. I think it's a good reminder for all of us. So thank you for that. I always ask our guests what they think is the biggest challenge that our teachers face today. What do you think the challenge is for teachers, and how do we help each other face it?
A combination of all that we ask from them because they're nurturing tomorrow's leaders, and how undersupported they are because obviously schools are underfunded and a lot of teachers have to teach too many students and they don't get to give the one-on-one time and attention that sometimes students really need. And so I think that's something that's really important to address through at the federal and state levels, but also every day in schools. That's something that students can help fix, even with just a simple thank you or a card at the end of the year or something like that, to let your teachers know that you appreciate them.
And I completely agree with you. And I also feel like keeping school about the learning process and not so much about grades is very difficult for teachers in this day and age. But I feel like they overcome that by focusing on personal improvement and not perfection.
That's a great answer. Thank you. All right, you guys both already mentioned this a little bit, but in what ways do you feel prepared to graduate and continue on to additional schooling or service or just entering the workforce?
I think one of the most important lessons I've learned through my education and through the activities I pursued is that I really can do whatever I set my mind to. And that's such an important lesson for me because it's made me realize that there's no path that I have to follow. I just need to decide what it is that makes me passionate, what it is that makes me tick, and I can pursue that and I can do whatever I want as long as I'm committed towards it.
Good.
Teachers have done an amazing job teaching me fundamental skills like how to take notes, how to study, how to collaborate and interact with teachers and peers. And I feel like this helps set a basis and makes it so, like Jay was saying, we could really do anything with our futures.
So most importantly is that you are a prepared learner and worker, more so than even the content that you're...
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because sometimes the real world is much different than whatever you learn in your class. And even if you major in one thing, you may end up doing a completely different thing. And I think what's most important is you have those skills, that you're willing to learn what you need to learn, and you're willing to work with others and willing to work towards something that's worth working towards.
Absolutely. What do you think is the most important lesson that you've learned in Douglas County, your entire schooling?
I learned that perfection is not the goal of learning or life in general. It's the improvement and growth that really matters. And a strong community and relationships with others are vital to the success and happiness of a student or staff member. And focusing on these relationships is really what makes someone successful.
I'm not sure how you got so wise at such a young age. There's a lot of people that don't know that yet. What about you?
Yeah, I really think the most important thing has been just the importance of teamwork and collaboration with others, because no one person can do everything on their own, but by working together, there's nothing we can't do.
Absolutely. I agree with both of you. All right. We know that social, emotional, and mental health pressures that students today are large and prevalent. What's the best way that we can help each other beyond what you guys have already talked about?
Promoting the idea that it's okay to not be okay, and just, like I previously mentioned, like small acts of kindness, just making sure that your friends, or maybe people that you don't even know that well, but you're willing to be there for, just let them know that you're there to listen, and that if they need help, there's people out there who care.
I agree with you. And also just getting the idea that helping others will help you too.
To build on that a little, one of the things I learned in my AP Psych class is a lesson that it's called the feel good, do good phenomenon, and it's the idea that people who feel good do more acts of charity, do help other people more, and vice versa. If you help other people more, that makes you feel better about yourself. And so that's a kind of a scientific way to look at it, but if you ever think about any time that you've made somebody else smile and how that's made you feel inside, it just reflects the fact that helping others isn't just helping them, it's also helping yourself, because at the end of the day, we're all here for one another.
I agree with Jay. Helping others helps create a strong, positive community, and together then we could all grow.
Well, Zoe, on that note, I think that's a great place to wrap up our podcast, Growing Together. I am just thrilled that I had the chance to talk with you both today. And again, you both are wise beyond your years, and I just appreciate so much compassion coming from you, and proud to have you as representatives of our district. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.